Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this evening. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about this evening, here we're looking at various coaching appointments at minor 10 level. We'll also have some chat around Super Rugby with the injury causing a bit of an issue for a couple of teams. And also, if I can find it, we'll have a talk about the British and Irish Lions potential tour to the British and Irish Islands. Okay, so anyway, but we'll have a chat about that later. Joining me this evening, I've got Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM, mate. I'm just having a bit of a chuckle about your last comment, the British and Lions Irish teams tour to the British Isles. Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah, British. Well, yes, but it's not British Isles. It's British and Irish, because obviously Ireland is not part of Britain. You've got to remember, be careful here, sir. There's an awful lot of history that goes on behind that. So you've got to be careful what you say in those situations. But yes, essentially a home tour, or i.e. South Africa touring Britain and Ireland, is on the cards. Well, depends on who you listen to, really, doesn't it? But I'm trying to find that schedule that has been leaked, and we'll try and discuss that later on. Also joining us after he's finished daddy duties, it's Stephen Harris. Sorry, not Stephen Harris.
Stephen Harris has finished daddy duties. You finished your daddy duties there, Stephen? Have you tucked your son in? Or your daughter in?
No, fear. I just got to. I didn't want to. Any of my whānau that are out there, I have not turned into an Indian.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, Stephen, you need to adjust your microphone. You're very, very quiet.
Don't be so quiet. Be brash. Yes, no, I've tucked my little cherubs in for the night, and I am here.
So you are. As Simon Hughes has, so good evening to Simon and Nocturnal Rights, who are in the live chat. Apparently the South American rugby competition is starting tomorrow morning, with the Jaguares back in action due to the Jaguares have actually been postponed due to Brazil having a few COVID cases. That's a shame.
A few? Simon, I think they got it quite bad in Brazil. They've even got their own. They've got their own strain.
No, but what about the Brazilian team? Do you know? Are you aware of the how many of the Brazilian rugby team have got COVID?
No, enlighten us as to how many of the Brazilian team have got COVID.
Haven't got a clue, but I'm saying Simon mentioned it. That's what, you can't jump to conclusions here, though. Nocturnal White says, yeah, Ireland has been referred to as part of the British Isles. Yeah, yes, it has. That doesn't always go down well with certain parts of the population in Ireland. Let's be blunt about it.
Because there were many tours. There were many tours here where they were just called the British Lions.
Well,
I think it was the let's call it the Tana series, where I remember that, like, oh hey, look, they're calling it the British and Irish Lions now. or maybe one of the ones to say like Australia or just before it, sort of thing. But that's I do remember. Hey, hang on, they've added Ireland to the tag now.
Well, that might be how it was reported here, but it's always been the British and Irish Lions over in the UK.
Okay.
Over Britain and Ireland. Yeah, I guess that would have been pre-Twitter days. Twitter would have exploded if we'd seen New Zealand reporters writing the British Lions have just beaten that, especially if Johnny Sexton was playing at 10. But some news closer to home then. Taranaki Bulls have announced their coaching team here for the 2021 season. The head coach is going to be Neil Barnes there, but he is going to be joined by two ex-players, sorry. In Johnny Weston, who used to be a Scotland Sevens representative, but grew up and has been coaching in the club rugby and age group sides in Taranaki, and ex-All Black Jared Hoeta. So, Stephen, what do you think about those appointments?
Oh, listen, with a name like Johnny Weston, you got to love a name like that. It almost sounds. It's. I mean, it must be from West Auckland. I can only assume that. No, in all honesty, it's quite a quick transition, I've got to say. Johnny Weston, I don't know too much about, I've got to admit, but obviously Jared Hoyata is not too long out of retirement. But boy, I'd almost say maybe I think he was playing for. He might have been playing for Taranaki last year. No, that was Finn Hoyata. Beg your pardon.
No, but you're right. I think he was, because he actually went and played, because he came back and I think he played for another NPC team. Or might have been Otago maybe or something, I thought, when he came back from overseas. But yeah.
But it's interesting. Apparently, he's part of the New Zealand under-20s selection panel. He's as well as being the forwards coach of the Chiefs under-20s team. So there we go. So that's what Jared is up to.
Wow.
Johnny Weston, though, has head coached the Taranaki men's sevens team, as well as being part of Spotswood United Premiers team and NPBHS First 15, whoever NPBHS are.
New Plymouth Boys High School.
There we go.
Well, at least you, to be fair to Johnny Weston, at least he's come through it sounds like he's actually come through the system, guys, as opposed to a former player who jumps into a coaching role straight away. And listen, that's something to be respected, that he started at New Plymouth Boys High and obviously went to Spotswood United. So it's fair to say that he's done his tour of duty.
Yeah. Hey, look, I reckon the great announcements there. I mean, obviously we knew about Neil Barnes joining as the head coach there and the like, but did you hear about the announcement? I think it was today, or was it yesterday? Another coaching announcement. Have you got another one on your list there, Paul? Oh, you've gone mute. You muted yourself. You muted yourself.
Don't tell him.
Oh.
I do have another one, yes, because you're talking about Bay of Plenty, I'm assuming.
Yes, I am.
So
I find that one more of a surprise, tell you the truth. But yeah, carry on.
So yes, I'd say yeah, good. So as Stephen says, good to see that they're bringing people up from internally, which I think I totally agree with. It's good to see guys coming through, not just on the playing side, but also on the coaching side as well. Spotswood is one of the top teams in Taranaki, by the way. So yes, former All Black Daryl Gibson has replaced Clayton McMillan as the Bay of Plenty head coach. Clayton McMillan is obviously the Chiefs head coach this year and will be a Chiefs assistant coach next year when Warren Gatland comes back. But you were surprised by Daryl Gibson's appointment?
Oh well, I mean, like it's good. But I think it's a good gain for Bay of Plenty to get someone of the caliber of Daryl Gibson. I mean, he's had some Super Rugby experience. He was coach of the Waratahs, wasn't he? So co-coach or assistant or something.
I'll run through his coaching CV. He was the backs coach at Glasgow Warriors in the Pro 14 or the Pro 12 back then. Has been assistant coach at the Crusaders. Has been assistant coach at the Maori All Blacks. Was assistant coach to Checker at the Waratahs before taking over at the Waratahs from 2016 to 2019. Also was a Samoan technical advisor in 2016. And last year was the Fijian assistant coach. Not that he actually got to do much last year with COVID, but I think he's also down as that. So yeah, as you say, a guy who has got some overseas experience over in Glasgow. He's also played overseas in Bristol, Leicester, and also Glasgow. So yeah, it's that overseas experience and also that Super Rugby experience. And for a guy who's only 46. I mean, he's got what 15 odd years coaching ahead of him, at least. So you're kind of thinking, oh look, reject out of the Waratahs. Where does his coaching career go from there? And also, he's obviously looking at trying to rebuild that now, because let's be honest, he didn't have a great reputation at the Waratahs, including having the Israel Folau saga happen on his watch, unfortunately, which wouldn't have helped him. That wasn't his. He had very little to say about what was going on there. But It's even though he did apparently lead them to the semi-finals against the Lions in 2018. I would say that people, the general thought or my feeling was that he didn't do very well at the Waratahs.
No, he didn't do very well at the Waratahs.
No.
Well,
no.
go, Steve. Because I
was
saw
gonna-
you screwing up your face when
Well,
Paul mentioned
I was-
right at the start. So
Yeah, I was going to say, once sort of Checker went into the role as Australian coach, I think you'll find that the Waratahs have pretty much struggled ever since, or even maybe even when you go to Ewan McKenzie, they had a good. I think they had a good season under Ewan McKenzie. Didn't he win a title with the Waratahs?
No, not Ewan McKenzie. Ewan McKenzie did it with the
With the Reds.
with the Red.
With the
Checker
Reds,
got the title with the Waratahs
Checker got them across the line
Yeah.
with the Waratahs.
was that the final penalty? That game, the final minute penalty.
against the Crusaders. Yes, I think so. Yep. And that's when Darryl was an assistant coach for that season with the Waratahs.
No, I think it'll be a good appointment. To tell you the truth, I think he's got some good experience behind him. It didn't go well at the Waratahs, but then, to be honest, as you've just alluded to, after Checkers left, who's gone well at the Waratahs?
Well, they only had him and Penny. So, but then again, they've also been hemorrhaging players overseas. So I don't think it's all down to the coaches. So I agree. It's a good appointment. You've got a guy there, as you say, who's got Super Rugby experience, who's got some international experience as well, both with Samoa and with Maori All Blacks. So yes, that's good.
I was just gonna look that comment there from Nocturnal. It's just like it's interesting, isn't it? It's like when we were kids, our parents were ancient, and I think that's basically the same thing there. Really, is that when we were younger, the coaches were ancient, even though Laurie Mains is, for example, 41, 42 when he was the All Blacks coach. But geez, Laurie Mains has looked like he's 70 since he was about 20, I guess, because. Yeah, when he was an All Blacks coach, he looked like he was 70.
Yep. Simon, who is a Bay of Plenty Steamers fan, he says he is happy to give Gibson a chance. Yeah, I think he's a good appointment. It's a tough job he's taken on though, because let's be honest, Clayton McMillan had a cracking time with them, getting them promoted, and then first year after promotion, getting them into the playoffs for what is a sort of country. One of the smaller provinces, not a Super Rugby province, they have, he got them performing, perhaps overperforming when you consider. So I think Gibson has taken on a tough job. You got to give him that credit as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think when you look at it, they have been outperforming their Chiefs counterpart up the road in Waikato, haven't they? Really?
Oh yes, absolutely.
And developing, and to be fair, pretty much developing most of the players that are coming through. I mean, obviously they've gained a few players here and there as well to help that out, but you see a lot of players coming through from the Rotorua area in particular, don't you?
Yeah, and if you recall, the development program's working as well. Obviously, the under-19s picked up the national title a couple of seasons ago, and when your union's travelling really well, players will just gravitate to the union, as we've seen recently with the signing of Manaki Selby Rickett from Southland. Big loss for Southland, but great pickup for the Steamers.
Well, I didn't know that one. That's a massive pickup actually, because I rate him actually. I think he's a good tough player, isn't he?
Oh, he definitely added something on when he came onto the paddock against the Blues on Sunday, and real good player in terms of line out ball and kickoffs.
Yep, he's a baller.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, Paul. You carry on.
I was
just going to say, I think that the Highlanders are actually underutilising him. I think he's been coming back from an injury, but I think he needs to start for the Highlanders.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it was a couple of odd selections from Tony Brown, wasn't it? Mickey Ely too. Why you'd have somebody you'll hit with, and that's with the greatest of respect to the boy that
Lynchies?
started Hugh.
Hugh Renton.
Hugh Renton. I probably would have had Mickey Ely too on the paddock. But yeah, hey, listen. Overall, getting back to what we were talking about, not a bad pickup for the Steamers, given Daryl Gibson's own career and his professional career. He'll probably bring a few new ideas to the Steamers.
So that's any other Mice 10 Cup music or coaching appointments you guys have noticed? Because I think that's all I've got on the down for this down so far.
Yes, I actually did pick up on one last Saturday. I went out to the to watch the Blues under-20s play the future Northland Taniwha team on the weekend. Good competitive game, but I saw Stephen Bates heavily involved with the development program, and from what I believe, he's actually joining the Blues in some development initiative capacity, from what I believe. So once again, another good pickup for the Blues, former All Black and Waikato Chiefs man as well.
But from BBI, Blockhouse Bay Intermediate. Oh yeah, he's from Blockhouse Bay.
Yep, and just played played for that school just across the road from me, Kelston boys.
There you go.
Part of that team that won the Rugby World Schools way back in. God,
Oh wow!
When was that? 1999, round about that time.
Yep. In
Very
Japan?
Good. I think it was in Japan, but boy, they had some good players. Mose Tuali was also in
He's a Kelston boy.
Well. Yeah, very good team.
Yeah, I think the Blues have actually made a posting announcing, or just sort of highlighting that he's joined the development side of things.
Cool. So moving on to Super Rugby, some sad news from down for the Crusaders in that Tom Christie has dislocated his shoulder, so it looks like he is going to be out for some time as they figure out how nothing so far as to how long that will be, but that sounds painful, especially for someone who does a lot of tackling. That's the shoulders are going to be key.
I think he's top tackle, got the top tackle count in Super Rugby Aotearoa as well. So, boy, we're all saddened by that loss at the Blues here, aren't we, Ashwin?
I'm gutted.
It's terrible.
Gutted, as in a fish having its guts ripped out.
Gutted for the guy.
Yeah.
Well, no, for the guy, look,
for the guy,
gutted for the Crusaders, but it is sad for the guy. Jeez, you heartless person. Deary me. The other one is that things are sort of going from bad to worse for the Hurricanes. In that they basically don't have a fly half. At the moment, from what I can tell.
Didn't we talk about this last week? And there's a guy out of Hawke's Bay that knows how to play a bit of rugby in the 10 jersey, eh?
Yeah.
Boy, what has this kid done wrong? What has he done wrong?
Well, that's you probably just touched upon something, because my spies have pretty much told me it's probably got a little bit to do with stuff away from rugby, which if it is correct, and like I say on the show, it is rumor, but we don't deal in rumor, if you know what I mean. But you kind of do wonder if there is any truth to that sort of speculation going around. But ready-made first five, ready to slot into that spot.
Look, I mean, depending on what that is, I mean, you'd have to say, this is where leadership comes in. Is if you have got a kid that's going off the rails in the wrong tracks, then again, depending on what it is, if it's totally serious, then obviously you do the rugby. Most sports steer clear of trouble if they can avoid it. But in saying that, if it's guy that's just off the rails a bit, that's where professional sport can help someone like that and bring the best out of them, put them in a new environment and say, hey, look, we're giving you a positive environment to help you out of it.
I see Stefan has just jumped on there and basically said there are two guys in the Hawke's Bay who can play first five, and I think I might know who one of them he's talking about is probably
at the Chiefs.
At Hawke's Bay. Who could play first five. I wonder if he's actually talking about Stacey Ely, but that would be a bit of a hard one. You'd have to get him released from the Rebels. And the other one, I'm thinking to myself, might be Caleb Markini. Also can play first five as well, but isn't he part of the Highlanders? Maybe.
We can Google that. Hey, Paul.
Yeah. So yeah, because currently in the squad they've got 2 first fives in Simon Hickey, who's injured, and Jackson Garden Bishop, who they're waiting on to see if he is going to be available. Looking at who Hawke's Bay have in their squad last year for in the first fives, so Lincoln McClutchy and Caleb McInerney. Who is with the Caleb McInerney is with the Highlanders wider squad. But if you are part of the wider squad, I think you can get brought into other teams, but not those in the immediate squad. So we'll have to see where they go. We've had somebody who actually now no longer has any say in it. Which is, I've just realised I was about to say, we have one of the coaches come out and talk about it, but we haven't, have we? Because Corey Jane is no longer a coach at the Hurricanes. Corey Jane's come out and said that they shouldn't put him, they shouldn't put Geordie Barrett in the 10 jersey.
Sorry, break the track up here. Corey Jane's not involved with the Hurricanes?
Didn't he get released during COVID last year?
No, he's the defence coach.
Who got released?
I thought Corey Jane's the defence coach for the Canes.
I know. Sorry, you're quite right. He is still. Who was Carlos down there?
Yeah, he was.
Sorry, okay. Carlos Spencer got released during COVID last year. Sorry, not Corey Jane.
I was going to say, Paul, the other option that they've got now, he's only young, but boy, he's a talent who can play fullback, first five, or even outside back because he's got that much pace. As young Ruben Love, the boy who played for Palmerston North Boys High. He's part of the Hurricanes squad at the moment, and I know he's been talked up really, really big time, but I guess it would be one heck of an ask for a kid that's only 19 years old.
Yes.
There's what happened to the kid out of King's College, Aiden
Morgan? Yes,
Morgan. Yes. Yeah, he went down there to be part of the Canes as well. So, and he'd be now basically around the 20 age bracket, so still young, but somebody that at that age they start chucking him in, don't they?
Oh, and yeah, should. Hey, if you're not made it by the age of 21, you passed it, and you're
yeah, you're looking for the gold card and getting your free trip on the ferry to Waiheke.
Look at Brett Cameron.
Well, no, he'll be playing at the Canes next year, won't he?
When Stephen started going, I thought he was going to say, oh, they could call back Carlos to play 10.
Yeah, I have to agree with what Nocturnal's saying. Geordie's a fantastic footballer, and I think he actually gets better. He actually keeps getting better and better. There's the things to his game, but he's just too big a guy to be sort of that sort of. Oh, geez, I suppose, watching Richie Mo'unga on the weekend and with the dancing feet and everything, just so nimble and the like. That's not Geordie, is it? I mean, so no, he's going to be able to get you around the park, but he's not going to break that line open apart from a line bust.
Which is why I think it'll make a fantastic 12.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Distribution, kicking game, big boy. So I think it's where he sees himself in the future.
Steve, I think he played 12 for the under-20s, didn't he?
Yes, he did. I can recall that. I was over in at the Gold Coast when he actually played second five for that New Zealand team early in that early Oceania tournament, but he actually didn't go to Georgia wherever they went later that particular year, because he was always decent to get picked up by a super squad. Just while we were chatting, I just took the opportunity to look back a couple of weeks ago. The Hunters 15, which is sort of like the Hurricanes development squad, played a regional 15. So I thought I'd just check on see who the first fives, excuse me, were in those particular teams at the time. Auburn Ledger was the first five for the Hunters 15, and young Cruden, the younger brother of Aaron,
right,
was the first five. I'm not sure. Maybe his first name's Stuart. I stand to be corrected. And interestingly enough, Lincoln McClutchy was on the reserves for the regional 15, and Aiden Morgan was the reserve for the Hunters. So there's, if you're basically looking to come through your development system, I suppose those are your next 4 off the cab. And
Okay,
you know
so if
what?
Lincoln McClutchy is in the environment, then surely they've got to bring him up and he's got to be into
Wow.
that.
Yeah, but,
Well,
he was in the regional 15, not the Hunters 15. So the Hunters 15, you're looking at there was Auburn Ledger, and who was the other one?
Yep.
Aiden Morgan, the young
But
chap
he wouldn't have been.
So those
if
two
he's
have
not,
got to be. But anyway,
Yep,
but those two have got to be sort of the next two off the rank, you'd think, and then he's after them.
nah.
But guys, I'm just looking at that particular squad. You've got Ruben Love at fullback, Lalangi Visania, you've got Patafino, Vince Arso, Danny Tuala, Auburn Ledger. That's your back line. The halfback I'd never heard of before, but Braden Yosei from Manawatu Turbos was the number 8, and he's a very good footballer. And a kid, remember this name, Tyler Labashar from Manawatu. This kid is out of Palmerston North Boys, very good. Then you got Liam Mitchell in the pack, James O'Reilly, Marfilio, and Podidaka Stones. And that was in there. That gives you an idea of what was in their Hunters 15. And even in the other side, not bad players running around in that side as well, guys. So there's a bit of depth there. I think coaches have just got to have a little bit of confidence in the guys that they've got there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I just bringing in my swinging from the hips there. So does Tyler know Manus?
I'm not sure.
I mean, it's a pretty unique name. It's a pretty unique surname, isn't it?
I'm sure. Yeah. I think it's spelled a different way. Maybe.
Is it spelled differently? Oh, okay.
I think it's spelled differently.
No, look, I mean, just go back to that. But sorry, you got to sort of think. I mean, some of those, the way the Hurricanes are traveling, they need to bring some of those players through.
Now, with all these injuries and with players saying last year how attritional Super Rugby Aotearoa was, and say it's not sustainable long term because it is just too attritional. There is South Africa have done an interesting thing with their what federation warm up, whatever it is, pre-season tournament they've put together, which is essentially the Curry Cup again for the 3rd time this season. Is that they're playing games every 10 days rather than every 7 days. So it goes weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, with a with gaps to give more recovery time for players.
Is that like so for that team, and so they do cycle through having games every 7 days, or actually the competition basically games are every 10 days?
The games are every 10 days. So you'll have a game. They have a bunch. They'll all play on a Saturday.
I get that.
Take the next weekend off, and then they'll play on a Wednesday.
On Wednesday, and then they'll play on the Saturday following.
Yep.
I get that, but as a fan, we hang out for the weekend for, it's almost ingrained in us. We're programmed to see rugby every 7 days. So you sort of start to get withdrawal symptoms if, you're now waiting an extra 3 or 4 days to watch a game of rugby, aren't you? It does happen, you do get that.
So you think you're immediately anti-change. Obviously, we know you don't like change, like to keep in your.
I would look at how you would manage it, and the fact that you still got your games happening every 7 days on a cycle, or less, but the teams are somehow getting that break. So you're managing the teams to get the break, but you're still producing product for the market in your normal 5 to 7 day cycle.
I'm not sure how you would do that, but anyway, but there's not enough teams. If you're NRL, you've got enough teams that you can do that kind of thing. You can give like a third of the teams a weekend off, for example. We already have 1 bye or 2 byes out of 10 weeks, which seems quite so it's one of those things as well. Now, Nocturnal Rights says the injuries are not from the length of time, but from the power. Now, part of that is, yes, but there's also an element of how much your body can recover from those collisions, so it's ready for the next set of collisions.
But I think when you look at most of the injuries that happen, they're from the impact. Like Nareki from the weekend, let's take as an example. It's like that's not from attrition. that's purely from a twist of this or a twist of that. Is in the collision and the impact of the collision. So I don't. Yeah, most of the injuries that we see that Tom Christie dislocated shoulder, that's not an attritional injury. That's the fact that he's gone and tackled somebody too hard and popped his shoulder out.
But then again, part of the reason it popped out might be because of tired muscles around it. There's a whole bunch. Yeah, I'm not a sports physician or whatever.
Hang on, I'm just getting my certificate out.
Were you half of the doctors who finished in the bottom 50% of the class?
Yeah. I'm still practicing.
One day you might get it right. Exactly. We are seeing injury issues as well, and we'll have to see how that all pans out and what we might do around this. I think what at the end of the day, what needs to start to happen is the game needs to transfer from being predominantly a physical contest to being more of a skill contest. Having watched the NFL and having watched the Super Bowl this year for the first time, I mean, having not watched NFL for a few years, it became very apparent that the physicality, the aggro, a lot of it wasn't kind of there. You had someone given a 15-yard penalty, which is a big penalty, for pushing a guy after the whistle had gone. You're like, wow, that's a very soft 15 yards. It felt like, but basically they've removed any kind of anything happening after the whistle at all has gone. And we're all like, oh yeah, but it's in the heat of the moment. Well, it's in the heat of the moment for them as well. It's a matter of getting players used to it.
Yes. I wonder how the NFL would have handled an open-handed palm to the face multiple times.
Let's with a red card. But anyway, so I think that there needs to be a transition and part of the sport away from it being a pure more towards the skills having the upper hand rather than the physicality having the upper hand, just for keeping players alive or in one piece. But we'll see if that actually happens or not. Simon Hughes points out that yes, the Major League Rugby is starting this Sunday, and Major League Rugby have announced that they are starting up a new streaming service that will be available globally and be free to watch the games.
I can see the Indian and Stephen Harris coming out yet again.
So that's going to be that's the what's the word I'm talking about? So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that streaming service works. Previously, they've streamed on Facebook and had it region blocked away from the USA, so that it looks like they're moving away from social media and having their own streaming service, which is going to be interesting to see. Aaron says, "Yeah, bring back Boa."
He's been constricted. He's been constricted by work today.
Yes, he's not been edited out. We have not cancelled his. We've not used cancel culture to cancel his views.
He's been no. Nobody got it. No. Okay.
No, a constrictor. Oh, dearie me, no. Oh, anyone who follows Ashwin on Facebook will get a plenty of dad jokes just like that on a constant stream, as well.
I'm a dad.
I just got a text with regards to coaching movements. I just wondered if you guys, or even if our viewers knew about Ben Afiaki and Daniel Halangahu taking over as the co-coaches for North Harbour.
Yes, I did hear that a while ago, actually. Daniel Halangahu, I heard about that, but I didn't hear about Ben Afiaki.
Ben Afiaki. So that'll be a coaching combination. So Obviously, the likes of Kieran Kane and I know Paul and myself would be both disappointed because we found Sam Ward a real pleasure to deal with last year. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands on his feet. And of course, former Northland coach and a man who's been involved with Auckland Rugby as the head of coaching. I think his title was Richie Harris. Has no relation to, by the way, has joined Counties Manukau Rugby as their development manager. So I think that'll be a really good pickup for Counties Manukau, because I think Richie would have his pulse very much on his finger on the pulse, beg your pardon, knowing all the young talent that's around, especially in that South Auckland region.
Yeah, and that's and look, it's going to be interesting to see how that co-head coach works at North Harbour. It generally doesn't. Let's be honest. One of the two ends up being the head coach, and the other one ends up leaving. Generally, so we'll see. Let's hope that doesn't happen there.
I sort of think there, though. I mean, like, you've got really good. Ben Afiaki was actually the Blues scrum coach. He was getting called into the Blues. I don't know if he still does or not, but so they've got a great forwards coach in Ben Afiaki there as a pickup, and Daniel Halangahu has so much experience, around the traps. So and he was also in the Blues environment for a while too.
So Simon Hughes makes a point, and going back to Major League Rugby and streaming, that he thinks they should stream on YouTube and Twitch. Look, the problem is, if you stream on somebody else's platform, stop twitching, Ashwin. It's really bad dad jokes. Dearie me. If you're putting it on something like YouTube or Twitch, you're putting it on someone else's platform. By building out your own platform, you have control. You aren't going to end up with a situation like happened with Facebook, basically shutting down all news on Facebook in Australia, for example. I think that was a big wake-up call for a lot of organizations, that they need to actually build their own platforms and own their own distribution channels rather than relying on somebody else the whole time. So I understand why Major League Rugby might go down that route.
And we don't have to go skip ads.
Well, they might put their own ads in.
But what generally in a live game, you shouldn't have to hit skip ads.
No. Interesting question here from Stefansson in the off Facebook. Do you think there are too many jobs in the pro game that are based around S&C to move away from the physicality factor? Look,
S&C? Explain S&C. Sorry? Strength and
conditioning. So look, it's going to come down to what the laws are and how the game's officiated. If the laws and officiating reward physical confrontation, then that's the way coaches will coach. If the laws and officiating are around skill-based, so for example, if you take, say, Boa's rule of kind of like only tackling beneath the nipples, then you can that immediately means that getting your arms free in the tackle and offloading is going to be something that's coached a lot. So it's I don't think the number of jobs will make any difference. I think it will come down to how it's officiated and where coaches see they can get an advantage over the opposition. So yeah, personally, any?
I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you, with Paul, and I think it probably just comes back to the resources of the particular side you're dealing with. As we know, some unions or some professional outfits have just got a little bit more money than others. Yep.
Yeah, look, I was just going to say about that. It's just like they're totally dependent on the laws rather than the actual. The strength and conditioning coaches will totally prepare their team players for the rules that are there. And the good example is a few years ago when we had the trial laws in the Mitre 10 Cup, and you saw Akira Ioane starting at 7 for Auckland, and that was purely because it made no sense to have a quick guy on the field at 7. So they had him. I mean, not that he's slow, but you could afford to have a bigger guy at 7, because that's the way that the game was played and the rules were changed. There was trial rules that they were trying that year.
Aaron says some of those coaching appointments seem like jobs for the boys. Where have they coached before? Look, Mitre 10 Cup is your entry level professional coaching. So you're not going to have, apart from the odd person like Daryl Gibson who comes in, you're not going to have guys with big coaching pedigrees, because the Mitre 10 Cup teams don't pay much at the end of the day. If you've got a big coaching pedigree CV, you're going to be getting a job in Japan or Super Rugby or the top 14 or somewhere like that. You're not. Mitre 10 Cup is how you is the entry level of professional coaching, really.
And Paul, I was about to say, even if you had somebody a club coach who maybe has won 2 or 3 multiple titles and has done a really good job at club level, it's one heck of a big commitment for that particular coach to maybe leave a full-time job to take a punt on a Mitre 10 Cup coaching career, which could turn south, and within a couple of seasons he finds himself out of a job. It's a case of roll the dice, isn't it? So for the union themselves, they're probably, when an opportunity does come to pick up somebody who's been in the professional ranks, you could probably see why they go down that path.
Yeah, Aaron said surely club coaching is the entry point. Well, except it's not full-time professional in a lot of cases. In some cases it might be, but in a lot of cases it's not. So, and you've only got the players twice a week. You've not got, it's not a full-time environment. So, as we said, one of the guys that's joined in at the Willie Johns, was it? I've gone blank. I think it was Johns Willie. Well, yeah, Willie Johns it was. In Taranaki, he's done first 15. He's done club rugby. He's done the local sevens thing. So yes, they have got something on their CVs. It's just not a lot more than you'd expect. Really. Moving on then. This is the rumoured British and Irish Lions schedule if South Africa are to tour. The UK, looking at the list of where the venues are, and some now. Straight away, Japan have come out and said they've not had any conversations around this, apart from obviously the opening game there against British and Irish Lions, which has already been talked about which is on the official schedule. We've had conflicting feedback from South Africa. Boys, try going full screen rather than squinting your eyes. The South Africa with
it is full screen.
So we've had conflicting reports out of South Africa. Some people saying yes, this is something that is being discussed. Other people saying no, it's not. But for those of you who are on the podcast, I'll just read through what this proposed schedule looks like. So it all kicks off on Saturday, the 26th of June, with the British and Irish Lions potentially taking on Japan up in Edinburgh in Scotland at Murrayfield. The following day, South Africa would take on the USA in London at Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium. The following weekend would see South Africa take on the French Barbarians, followed by the British and Irish Lions taking on the USA, both up in Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Then there'd be a midweek game between the British and Irish Lions and South Africa A at London Stadium, which is where the Olympics were held. Then next weekend will be the last round of warm-ups with South Africa taking on Japan, again at Tottenham Hotspur in London, and the British and Irish Lions taking on the French Barbarians in Twickenham. So essentially, South Africa, the British and Irish Lions, both taking on Japan, the USA, and the French Barbarians as their 3 warm-up games. Moving into the then that'll be followed off by 4 test matches over 4 weekends up in Murrayfield in Scotland, the Principality Stadium in Wales, Wembley Stadium in London, and Twickenham Stadium in London as well. Now, the so there's a comment in here that why have they bothered putting the listing the capacities? Well, because hopefully by then Britain is one of the places that has been getting on with its COVID injections and inoculation. So I'm assuming that they're hopeful that they'll have enough people jabbed by then. But it does seem rather optimistic to say the very least. So yes, so that is so yeah, as Dr. Wright says, yeah, 72,000 Zoom attendants. Now, yeah, yes, they're going to have 72,000 laptops, but one on each seat, so you can cheer, and the microphone, the speaker of the laptop will put your noise and your crowd noise out there. But as a kind of sort of Japan, USA, French Barbarians as warm-up games, followed by 4 tests. What are your thoughts, boys?
You go, Steve. You would. Okay, I'll go then. It's like I was just going to say, look, they've missed the trick here. The best option was worth investigating and pursuing and making it happen was the Lions going to Australia and South Africa going to Australia. The stadiums are bigger than those capacities that listed there. They could have used the Super Rugby teams as warm-up games for both of them. Just imagine on one given weekend as warm-up games, South Africa playing the Reds and the Lions playing the Brumbies, leading up into and then midweek games that could have followed as well against the Force, Waratahs, and who am I missing? The Rebels. So, it's like, I look at this and it's just like South Africa, you would be better off to push for the tour to go to Australia. At least you're on neutral ground there. Now, as Australia was saying, with the number of expat British and Irish people in the UK, South Africans in Australia, and South Africans in Australia, those grounds would have sold out. And the Australian rugby supporters, the reason why Australia doesn't get good attendances to their games is not because there isn't rugby lovers in Australia. It's because they got shit games to watch. That's why this would have been absolutely quality, and they would have sold out your 100,000 MCG, your 100,000 Homebush. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're up in Brisbane. It's what 70,000 for Suncorp or whatever it is, and then I don't know what you'd have out Western Australia. But you see where I'm going here. It's just like they've just missed the trick here, and it's just like the Lions touring the UK is just to me this is wrong. It doesn't work. It was such a better option to go to Australia, especially with the no COVID issue. Yeah, I know, time friendly, but hang on, you got to remember. Think about this. It would have been kicking off at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock Australia time, which means it's about 9, 10 o'clock in the UK. So you're watching it over your Eggs Benny, You're watching Eggs Benny. You're going down to the pub, having a pint with your Eggs Benny.
Yeah, but not so much with you, but look, yeah, essentially this has come down to like a lot of decisions that have been made recently, particularly with European rugby, has come down to TV contracts. Okay, and the TV company have paid for prime time slots in the evenings, and that's what they want to have delivered. Otherwise, they want their money back. To be honest,
give them their money back, right? Because this series, and with what I explained, you would have a massive viewership globally. You think about it. How New Zealand, every rugby fan in New Zealand would be watching that schedule, right? Obviously, South Africa's going to have massive. Globally, people that are into rugby, that would be a fantastic schedule of the guys playing the Super Rugby teams, and then these massive stadiums sold out. I mean, if you don't think the Waratahs are up to it, ship the Crusaders and the Blues over there to play them,
What you're describing is essentially a British and Irish Lions tour to Australia. So look, the fixtures are all good and fine. And I understand that your view is that they'll get a big enough global audience. Clearly, the guys who do the TV have gone and said, no, the way we get
absolutely.
That's not.
But South Africa's the one that's really, going to get the rough end of the stick here, because they're playing a British and Irish Lions team on home soil.
Yep. But it's that or nothing by the looks of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wonder what there's no talk of what compensation, money, etc., will be paid to South Africa, is there? Nobody's ever mentioned that. I've never seen anything reported around that sort of thing because I assume that something, you'd have to throw a donut to South Africa, throw them a bone.
There was definitely a revenue sharing piece if it goes to the
Model.
UK. Now, quite what that looks like, I don't know. Stephen, your thoughts?
It's I'm just looking at those 4 tests in a row. That's a tough schedule.
Well, that's pretty normal, isn't it?
No, 3. It's normally 3 tests.
Oh, okay.
Is there only 3 tests? Oh, okay.
No. You're right. There are 4. Normally, there's only 3.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough schedule, and I suppose for the home unions, are they, like, for example, the British and Irish Lions? Will they basically pick a squad, or will they be able to? I suppose it'll be easy enough for them to rotate. But I see South Africa playing up there.
They'll have a big squad.
So I suppose they'd be carrying a big squad. As well. You're definitely going to have to rotate your players. For me, it's exciting. South Africa, to give them credit, are putting it all on the line. But boy, you guys have got to get out there and play some rugby. And the concern for them is that they haven't played any rugby since they won the Rugby World Cup. Sure, they'll no doubt come together. It'll be tough.
Steve, just on another note, I was just going to ask you. Sorry, no, carry on. Sorry.
Just with to say having USA in there, it's kind of a little underwhelming.
It's a weird one.
It's a bit of a weird one. I would rather they played maybe like a premiership 15. Players who are basically maybe outside, or else here's a better idea: a premiership foreign. 15.
There is
international
a Pro 14 Premiership foreigners. Yeah. Now, before we kick it, just let Stephen know, there is talk of England touring the USA and Canada. So the Ireland, Scotland, and Wales would be expected to be touring somewhere as well. So just because British and Irish Lions are at home doesn't mean they would have access to all those extra players. So maybe not from that point of view.
Okay, well, a foreign, you've got a lot of good Australian players running around over there. You've got some good Kiwi players running over there. You know what? That would interest me really big time, because I'd love to see how guys like Charles Pieto. He's probably on target to be the number 1 player in the Gallagher Premiership at the moment. If you listen to the commentators, they just absolutely wax lyrical about him, and that's because he's delivering on the field at the moment. But Stephen Luatua playing some great rugby up there at the minute, so there's a lot of good New Zealand and Australian players running around. Now that would really excite me, and maybe a New Zealand Australian sort of resident side, and then a Pacific Island residents team.
An Anzac team, An Anzac team out of the UK. Now, what I was going to ask Steve before was, like, how often do you get up in the middle of the night to watch rugby these days?
I don't.
You don't, exactly. Would you? I'd wake up for these games.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night to watch these.
Yeah. Well, these test matches, I'd definitely get up to watch.
Yep.
I wouldn't get up to watch South Africa play USA and.
Yeah. That one might get the record button.
Yeah.
But then South Africa versus the French Barbarians, because probably going to be pretty much a French test side.
Unless France are touring, but then we've already seen that the France have got enough depth to do 2 test sides at the moment, so that's not a problem. So Turner Wright's asked me, Paul, as an expat, what do you feel about the Lions playing at home? To be honest, I'll be watching on TV anyway, so I really don't. To me, it doesn't seem so. I'm not massively anti it. Look, as long as it's a one-off because of COVID and it doesn't become a regular thing, then I'm comfortable with it. I don't have any problems with that. He does make a good point though about the players coming together. Would the Lions bond in the same way as they do when they go on tour? I guess in some ways they're probably going to be in a COVID bubble, so they're going to be on tour at home and not able to see their friends and not able to see their family anyway. So they're probably going to be locked away.
let's get in an optimistic world where they travel around and they're practicing, and COVID's sort of nice and controlled, and so crowds are allowed to gather and all that sort of stuff. If the Lions tour is touring around the British and around the UK and Ireland, people are going to go along and support the team. They're not going to be, and a Scottish guy isn't going to say, "You suck, you Englishmen." They're not going to do that. They're going to come on board as that's the Lions, and they will support the team. And I can actually see, a town that they'll go practice at a local field or whatever, and the town comes out to watch the practice. That sort of thing could happen, like a World Cup type and sort of atmosphere environment type thing, and it could be actually really beneficial for a Lions team.
Yeah, especially, well, I thought you were going to say in a Brexit world to bring the country together, a bit like the Rainbow Nation in the Rugby World Cup in South Africa. Anyway, I shouldn't go down that rabbit hole. I shouldn't have said that. But anyway, but I think he's referring to the players more than the country.
I think you're
saying yes.
Yeah, even the players would come together as well because of the fact that if you're going to Scotland and they're supporting every Lions player, then the players will naturally sort of come together as well, I feel.
As long as Scotland get more than one player picked this time.
Well, I've been doing okay. Nearly tipped over Ireland, just missed out by 3 points. So they haven't been doing too badly, have they? So they've got a chance of getting more than one player, maybe two.
Well, talking about that, Scotland have done. Any last comments on this one? Otherwise, we'll move on to Scotland, because Scotland have just been so Scottish. This Six Nations, they've beaten England, the old enemy, and then they've lost to everybody else. And that's kind of
nobody's going to lose to Italy.
They haven't played Italy yet, to be fair. They played them. Yeah, that's true. But they've beaten England and then lost to Wales and lost to Ireland. There was so much promise after that opening weekend where they beat England, and you're just thinking, okay, is this finally the time that Scotland kick on, or is it as it looks like it's turned out again, another false dawn?
Well, 3 points to Ireland. You're not going to. Ireland's not exactly. They're not the Ireland of a couple of years ago, but they're not a crap team either.
But Ireland have lost to Wales and France so far.
Yeah, I get that.
Only beaten Italy. So
everybody.
I was about to say, guys, for me, I think this is one of the better Scottish teams that I've seen in the wild. Through the middle with the boy Johnston and James in the middle. They actually sound like a couple of lawyers, Johnston and James.
They've got a property to settle.
They're very strong. They've got the big winger as well. You got Stuart Hogg and Maitland, who all add pace. That's what, to me, it's one of the better Scottish. And with Finn Russell running the cutout, I think it's one of the better Scottish backlines that I've seen for a while. And I must admit, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't realise Stuart Hogg was a goal kicker, and he stepped up, took over the goal kicking, and just really at the end, probably a little bit unlucky to concede that penalty with the clearing kick getting charged down, and of course the halfback getting isolated. But just something I want to touch out of this game. James Lowes, it was a player in New Zealand who used to get a lot of support from people asking why he was never an All Black.
An All Black.
I think you're actually seeing it at the moment why he didn't make the All Blacks. There was always question marks over his defence, and once again it's been seen throughout this campaign with James Lowe. He just seems to get caught out, doesn't get himself in the right position, and it is a shame because he is a good player, but you've got to honestly say if Jacob Stockdale was basically fit, you would have him back in that team at the drop of a hat.
Just going to bring up the England. Sorry, not the England. There's the Six Nations table for us to have a look at.
Well, you said that, Paul. There's some good tries in that England-France game. Some good tries and some very good action.
I'll be honest. The only thing I've only watched extended highlights for all the games this weekend. I've not actually had the opportunity. I didn't have the opportunity to see to see them all, to see any of the full games. But yeah, it's been a weird one, hasn't it? Looking at the table, Wales at the top there with what's been called the Jam Slam or the Jammy Slammy, after winning their first two games with red cards, and then some interesting refereeing decisions against England. Ireland have beat Scotland and Italy so far, having lost to Wales and France in second place. France, 2 wins against Italy and Ireland, having lost to England this weekend. England, again, just beating Italy and France, having lost to. So, yeah, lots of teams just beating each other, with Wales at the top having won everything and Italy at the bottom having won nothing. But the other 4 basically just taking points off each other, giving Wales basically the title. Essentially, it's going to take something for them not to win the title at this point.
So they could pick up. So basically, even if France actually won and they picked up 1 bonus point, they would probably win it, I would imagine, Paul. So
what? So in situation, look. So Wales play France next. So France don't win that. Essentially, Wales win. But France need to win both their games now, with try bonus points probably to go top. And they've got Wales and Scotland to go. So yeah, it's tough to see how that goes. But yes. Wales win their luck, but absolutely. I mean, Wayne Pivac came into this with basically looking like he was going to get sacked at the end of the Six Nations, because he has a clause in his contract that says basically this summer Wales decide whether they can get rid of him, rather than continuing off with the 4-year his 4-year contract. But he's ridden his luck and turned things round and has secured himself a job now through to the next Rugby World Cup, basically. Yeah,
I was about to say, when the camera pans on him, he always seems to be on his own. There's absolutely nobody beside him. So I'm kind of wondering if he does win the Six Nations next year, if you'll have people sitting right beside him this time next year.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, thank you, boys. It's been.
You didn't cover off the most important question of the night.
Okay, sorry. Which is?
Yeah. Is Harry going to be supporting England or the USA? Oh, sorry, that's gold.
It's gold.
That's gold, mate.
Dear me, I was deliberately keeping away from that one.
And the next one.
Well, yes, yes.
Don't worry, I got that one.
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. Look, folks, if you're listening to the podcast, wondering what that one is, off you go to
Facebook.
Off you go to Facebook, and you can see all the comments there. But yes. So, thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Stephen. It's been a pleasure as always. Don't forget, folks, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing, and also we'll be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. with the standoff show. Followed by 9 p.m. with the Knicks newsletter. So league and football tomorrow evening, or soccer, if you are if you're an older person in New Zealand, as they used to call it here.
They used to call that everywhere in the world. They used to call it soccer,
apart from England. We've never called it soccer in England. Anyway, have a great evening, folks, and catch you